Hey,
because it's kind of
Patrick, we are live and you can do anything that you want to on
awesome,
live. This is us, man. Uh,
fantastic.
who do you want to do a shout out to?
Happy Friday! I actually want to do a shout out to all the nurses and teachers out there that are working through the pandemic and keeping this country up and going. Especially to my sister, nurse practitioner. She's out
That's
there
awesome.
every
I
day
want you
dealing
to
with
say,
COVID.
I love the nurses and nurse practitioners being in the hospital. They are my favorite. Here we go.
Very
Today,
cool.
guys, about sex magic. We can talk about them separately or we can talk about them together. And with Patrick today, we're going to be talking about both together. So,
Yes.
Patrick, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Michael, for having
Um,
me. It's a
let's
pleasure to
talk
be
about
here.
sex magic.
Sex magic.
I'm psyched about it.
Well, sex magic
Yeah. First of all,
is
we got to define for people what is sex magic.
sex magic. Well, in the magic community, uh, the orgasm is like one of the strongest natural powers you can use in an offering, so to speak, quote unquote offerings. So you're offering up the sexual act as a offering to the gods, whatever god you're praying to, whatever entity you're praying to. Um, and that's basically what sex magic is using the energy of the orgasm to focus, very much like a prayer, like a spell is like a prayer. It's a focused energy on one thing that you want to happen. And that is the purpose of the orgasm isn't sexual gratification. It's the magical intent that you want to have. And
Okay.
so that's sex magic.
Because this is going to be weird to me and to everyone else that hasn't practiced sex magic.
Of course.
Um, for most people, the intent of the orgasm is just the orgasm, right? And
Exactly,
what you're
yes.
saying in sex magic, the intention goes beyond that. And I'm thinking
Yes.
most times I can't think beyond that. Uh,
Well, that's why it's in a little more advanced stage of sex and magic, because you have to put aside the physicality and the sexuality of it all. You're doing it for the whole purpose of making magic. And there's people who are not in any kind of relationship, but they both practice sex magic together, which means that they have sexual intercourse together for the purpose of making this magic happen.
so
You know,
what are the things like when you say you want the magic to happen? Because we talk about, well, that was fireworks, magic happened.
just
But when you
just like a
talk about it, what
prayer,
do you mean?
just like a prayer, a magic spell or a ritual is designed to elicit some sort of response from the nature or from the world or the universe. So whatever it is that you're intending on, that's what the magic is. That's what you're trying to make happen. So you could
Oh,
be, and it's just like in a prayer. You don't ask for wealth. You don't ask for success. You the purer the intent of the magic, the more likely it is to actually come to fruition as well.
so okay. Is there a process that happens with sex magic? In other words, you start out and is there any ritual that you go through, or how does this happen?
It's different for everybody, depending on what branch of, some people are Wiccan, some people are just, spiritual people who know about sex magic. So some people do ritualize it. And to me, rituals have always been about, there's no right or wrong way, as long as you're not doing something dark, like sacrificing, a lamb or something, none of that stuff. But like, to me, rituals are a way to get the person's mind into the proper space to do the magic that they're trying to do. So you could light incense, candles, music, whatever it is to create the proper magical atmosphere that you're trying to create is, you know, is up to the person. But there's no right or wrong. You're not going to accidentally open up a demon portal, by having sex magic. No, it's nothing like that. It's all positive, and it should be all positive. Uh, you know, and that also goes to intention too. People could try to use sex magic to just have sex, and usually those people are found out quite quickly. Their motivations come out right away,
Okay,
which is
so I still have to ask the
yes,
neophyte and questions here, the plebeians.
absolutely.
Okay, so if I wanted to practice sex magic, what are the things that I would need to get into? Do I need to find a club? Do I need to?
No,
I don't get it.
sex magic can be practiced alone. But what it also it needs is some self work. You really need to uh, be comfortable with yourself sexually. Be comfortable with your body. Um, so that in itself is going to take some people some time. A lot of us have to go to therapy and really find out who we are sexually, because a lot of us have been repressed sexually since childhood. So we don't even know who we are sexually, and like we're uncomfortable with our own bodies. So you got to get to that stage first, and
And how does
then,
one do that?
well, therapy is one good way. Um, Surrounding yourself with a like-minded community is also uh, a good way to get in tune with yourself sexually. Actually, having conversations, like sexual conversations with people. Um, Finding people who understand that just because you talk about sex doesn't mean you're trying to have sex with them. you know. And there's communities out there. There's a website called FetLife that is like a Facebook for fetish people. You can go on there and you can just basically post your pictures, post your videos, post what you're thinking about, sexually, ask questions. There's groups that get together in public places, like at a Denny's, for instance, and they'll just show up, and it's called a munch, and people show up just to talk face to face. They see you online, all naked and sexy. Let's see who you are as a person, and then you get to talk, about ideas. And I've met so many friends, that have lasted decades, from FetLife and from swinger parties and dungeons and things like that. And
So
dungeons
there,
are another
okay,
place where
so
you go
most
to.
people are going to think about this, about what you're saying,
Hmm.
and I'm going to say most people because I'm just going to group myself into most people for
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, like, okay, this is kind of weird. I've
Hmm.
heard about these swinger couples. I've heard about dungeons. I've heard about, you know, wrapping up in, I don't know, latex and these weird things like this.
Right. Right.
What does that have to do with sex magic, or is that a different thing than sex magic?
Um, it's a different thing than sex magic, but also kind of the same thing. And that's the whole reason why I'm writing the book, because you pretty much nailed it right now when you were talking. It's weird and it's different and you don't know, and that's the purpose of the Geek and Kink, is that I want to take all the taboo, all of the mystery, all of the weirdness out of it, and show that it's actually something that your next door neighbor is probably doing and not talking about it. Your cousin's probably out at a party not talking about it. Because I myself have gone to parties and seen people from my church, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here?
It's like,
And
yeah, just praying for all the
yeah,
stuff I did at the sex magic show.
right. And it's one of those things where, one of the big motivations for me writing the book was a congresswoman lost her position because her ex released her threesome video. And I'm like, what does
Okay.
that have to do with her being a congresswoman? Her sexual identity as a bisexual woman, in a consensual relationship with somebody who she loved and trusted, she has no bearing on her ability to do her job. And it's a whole taboo thing of people, being kinky or open-minded, that causes them to be outsiders. And it's like everyone's having sex, everyone's doing kinky stuff, so no one wants to admit it and look their neighbor in the eye and be like, yeah, don't go in that room, or don't open that door. We all have that part of our house where, like, don't go in there, because it's this big secret that we're keeping. It's like everybody has sex, and we're more comfortable letting our kids play violent video games and watch violent TV shows than we are letting them watch sexual stuff. It's like, why? We're more likely to have sex than we are to murder somebody. We should be learning how to have sex the proper way. And like I'm a big advocate for porno. Because it does teach different positions, different possibilities. People didn't know bodies can bend that way. It's like, hey, like, they're human too. You can do that as well. It just takes a little stamina, a little rhythm, a little practice. But it's like anything you want to be good at. It takes practice. It takes time. It takes study. You have to want to become a better sexual person. You know, and sexuality, again, it doesn't mean that we're deviants. It doesn't mean that you know we're anything bad. It's just that we are more in tune to what we want sexually. And I myself am 44 years old, and I spent many years in relationships where the sex was terrible, and there was no fixing it, and the relationship fell apart, because sex is a huge part of a relationship, and you get to be sexually compatible, or at least be willing to learn, and open-minded to what your partner's needs are, and then know what your needs are, it's a lot of work, and I found that people who go to these dungeons and swinger parties have some of the longest, most successful relationships, and I know one couple who's been married, close to 30 years. They have very successful children, and they have 300 people swinger parties in their backyard, and they are, high level member society, and you would never think that, but, it is what they like to do, and everyone's consenting, and everyone comes and has a great time, and there's rules, and, sometimes there's classes beforehand, so you learn new things to try in the bedroom, and it's been a completely positive experience. And anytime I've taken what's called a vanilla person to a swinger party or a dungeon, they're always surprised by how cool it is and how relaxed it is and how they had no idea it was going to be like it was. They had an idea that it was going to be, devious and, weird, and they were going to be molested and touched, and none of that happens. It's very fun. It's basically like the best house party I've ever been to, but like everybody, kind of walks around half naked and appreciates the beauty that walks around, and you see all kinds of shapes and sizes too, and that's the other beautiful thing about it is like, seeing people comfortable in their own skin, regardless of what they look like. I've seen skinny, fat, tall, short, people in wheelchairs, and that's the other part of the sexual lifestyle too, is you realize there's people who are doing these things because they have no choice, so like I knew a couple, the husband was paralyzed from the waist down. He could not give his partner sexual gratification. So to, as a mutual agreement, they go to these swinger parties and she gets to explore sexually, with his consent. And he actually enjoys watching her being pleasured, and it's their relationship, it's what makes them, and they love each other and they respect each other, and what's what works for them. The wife is gratified, the husband's happy that his wife is happy. They go home at the end of the night, happy as clams, and, come back a month later and do it all over again, or they, whatever. There's all kinds of different scenarios I've seen.